Bonjour à toutes et à tous et bienvenue dans
Hello and welcome to the interview on France 24. My guest today here in Tel Aviv, Israel, is the former Israeli Justice and Foreign Minister Tzipi Livni. Thank you for being with us. US President Donald Trump has recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, reversing decades of American foreign policy. What's your reaction? Do you think that this is good news for peace, as Prime Minister Netanyahu said earlier this week?
It's good for Israel because Jerusalem is the capital of Israel since 1949, long before 6 Days War. And what President Trump did is recognizing the realities on the ground. I mean, as a Minister of Foreign Affairs, all the world's leaders met me in Jerusalem without formally recognizing, but this is what Jerusalem is. The question whether it's good or bad for peace depends on leaders. Because Trump said in his speech that he recognizes the reality, but it doesn't mean that this should jeopardize final status issues, including Jerusalem and the borders and the boundaries and the sovereignty in Jerusalem. And therefore, my expectations from both leaders, from Netanyahu on the Israeli side and from Abu Mazen, from Netanyahu to say, to express his gratitude, but also to say that we support the idea of two-nation state, and he would like to negotiate this, and this can calm down the frustration on the Palestinian side. And to the Palestinians, I want to say that those of you who want to create a Palestinian state, even though if you are frustrated from Trump's announcement, there are also good news in this announcement. Trump said that he supports the idea of two states for two peoples. And therefore, instead of being frustrated, call for negotiation, support the idea of two states for two peoples, and let's start talking about the real issues.
So the peace process is not dead yet?
It's an Israeli interest. It is our responsibility to revive it. To say that peace is dead for Israeli, the meaning is that we would face a situation in which Israel needs to make a decision whether to annex the territories, Judea and Samaria. What are we going to do with all these millions of Palestinians living there? Are we giving them voting rights? Is Israel would cease to exist as a Jewish state? And therefore, peace is an Israeli interest. It's not a favor to the Palestinians, not a favor to the Arab world. And maybe it's even Israeli interest more than it is an American interest. It is our responsibility to pursue peace.
On a vu qu'il y a eu beaucoup de colère chez les Palestiniens, mais aussi dans le monde arabe. Est-ce que vous craignez?
Do you think there'll be a new uprising?
Est-ce que vous craignez une troisième intifada?
I hope not, but let's put also the realities on the table. Hamas would not recognize the right of Israel to exist at all. It's not connected to what Trump said about Jerusalem. Since 2006, when Hamas was elected on the Palestinian side, we worked with, frankly, it was, I think that the first announcement came from President Chirac, saying that Hamas as a terrorist organization is not legitimate until they would recognize the right of Israel to exist, renounce violence and terrorism, and accept former peace treaties between Israel and the Palestinians. So Hamas represents the religious ideology that would not accept us. I hope that the agenda would not be hijacked by all these extremists in the region, not by Iran or Daesh or Hezbollah or Hamas. And therefore, I believe that the role of leaders is to, I'm talking about those who want to achieve peace, is to calm down and to send a message of hope to the peoples.
Those leaders who want to achieve peace, perhaps you're talking about Mahmoud Abbas, he's now calling for national reconciliation. Is this a problem?
If the outcome of this reconciliation is that Hamas took over the Palestinian Authority, it's a huge problem. So it depends on the outcome. And for now, they didn't agree on some of the major issues that are important for the entire international community. The whole idea is not to have a legitimate government plus an armed militia in Gaza. We don't want to see the situation like we are facing in Lebanon.
I'd like to have your personal opinion on this. Do you think that East Jerusalem could one day become the capital of a future Palestinian state?
I'm an Israeli, I'm a Jew, and I'm deeply connected not only to Jerusalem, the west part of Jerusalem, but also to the holy places that we have in East Jerusalem, including the Western Wall and Temple Mount. And it is true that since Oslo Agreement, it is on the table. But I believe that instead of focusing on whose capital is Jerusalem, let's speak about the borders of Israel and the Palestinian state. And when we would have borders, and when the Palestinian state would be defined and the borders would be delineated, the Palestinians can put their capital wherever they want. But as I said before, Jerusalem is very important for me.
Was it a mistake for Donald Trump to give Benjamin Netanyahu what he wanted without asking for anything in return?
You know, he did something that the Palestinians truly wanted him to say. He said that he recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, but also he said that he supports the idea of two states for two peoples. For the first time, he said that he supports the idea of two states. I hope that this would not be the last statement on peace coming from Donald Trump. Well, he said that this is the fulfillment of his election promise. Now he made another promise. He said that he would reach the ultimate deal between Israel and the Palestinians. And as I say here also to some of my friends in politics from Likud party, from Netanyahu and some of his colleagues, Trump said clearly, this is the reality, but let's negotiate. And this is what I also say to the Palestinians. He recognized Jerusalem, but yet he's speaking about the need to achieve peace and to delineate the borders. So let's do it. Not, happiness on the Israeli side, frustration of the Palestinian side. This is one thing. Let's speak about the future, not about the declaration.
Should the Israeli government stop or at least freeze settlement building?
Yes. Yes. I think that you expected a longer answer coming from me. Settlements activities is part of a vision that we had after 1967 war. We were attacked, we succeeded in this war, and the feeling here in Israel was that we came back to places that are part of our history. I do remember as a child my first visit to the tomb of Rachel and the tomb of the patriarch, and this is part of our history. And but yet, since I am focused on the existence of Israel as a Jewish democratic state, I believe that even though we have rights on the entire land, we need to divide it. And in the first day of negotiations with the Palestinians, we were talking about rights. I was talking about the Bible, they were talking about their families, and then we said, okay, the agreement would not be who has more rights on the entire land, whether it's the land of Israel, as I call it, or Palestine, as they call it, but it's about the future. And I believe that in order to keep Israel as a Jewish democratic state and to have a Jewish majority, we need to give up part of the land. I mean, we need to take care of security and other things. And settlements activities, new settlements activities, doesn't serve this interest. Just to make one thing, last thing clear. In the negotiations, we need to keep what we call blocks of settlements as part of Israel. The good news is that most of the Israelis that are living outside of the 67 line in the West Bank are living in blocks of settlement that takes only a few percentage of the West Bank. So this is something that needs to be negotiated. The Palestinians also understand that they need to change the line of 67, and the entire Arab world understand it. But new settlements activities outside of the blocks of settlements, what's the use of it?
Do you think that Benjamin Netanyahu and the current Israeli government want peace with the Palestinians?
I think that every Israeli wants peace, but it's not about what do we want, but it is more about decision making. And I believe that the leaders who would make peace are those that understand that by making peace, they would pay a political price, that's for sure. And this is also to take some risks, but the price that their peoples would pay without making peace is higher than the political price that they would pay. I worked with Netanyahu in 2014, and we reached an understanding with the Americans, but I think that after the last election, his strategic political decision is to keep what he calls his base, and this includes also those that are not supporting the two-state solution.
It seems that Israeli people are more concerned about corruption allegations levelled against the government than by Donald Trump's announcement. There were tens of thousands of people in the streets of Tel Aviv a few days ago. Is this the issue that people feel most concerned about these days?
It's not connected. I was happy to hear President Trump's speech, but yet I'm completely against this government, and we are working against corruption. And I truly support these Israeli citizens that are taking the streets, calling the corruption to be stopped. But also the real reason for me to be in politics is to achieve peace between Israel and the Palestinians. And this is my major goal in politics, and it works together. You can be a leader, not corrupted leader, believing in peace and doing the right thing for your people.
Thank you very much, Tzipi Livni, for answering our questions, and thank you for watching this interview on France 24.